What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, depending on your time of day in your part of the world. You're watching AMS Live. My name is Boy. It is a Monday morning over here in Amsterdam, where it is still grey and cloudy, as always, I would almost say. It's the first day of the closure of runway 2406, the Kaagbaan, for major maintenance. It's going to stay closed until the second half of April, if it doesn't get delayed. In terms of runway usage for today, at the moment, all the north-south runways are in use. The center and left one are now being used for departures, and runway 18 right, the Polderbaan, being the only one at the moment in use for arrivals. Two airplanes visible. The first airplane being Lufthansa flight 988 arriving from Frankfurt. Behind it is an A321 arriving from London Gatwick. Speedbird flight 2540. At the moment the wind is blowing from the west-southwest. I believe it was 10 knots, if I recall, from the METAR. So it's a bit more windy than it was yesterday. It's still not significantly windy. I'm hoping this is going to be the last stream with the excavators and whatnot in the way. I'm standing a bit further to the north, a couple of meters, not too much, but with the excavators and stuff right in front of my normal location, I'm a bit closer to the whatever it is that is over here. Right, Speedbird BA flight 2540 arriving from London Gatwick, A321, flight time 45 minutes, 19-year-old airplane, first flight November 2004. And I believe we have a few minutes to spare after this airplane has landed to do a briefing. Not sure how long it's going to stay dry for here today. The various sources of weather radar give different predictions. Rain is expected later in the day, but whether it is around the end of the morning, around 11 o'clock already, or if it's going to be past 1 o'clock, opinions differ depending on which source you check. So fingers crossed. If weather will allow me to, I plan to stick around until approximately 1 p.m. at least. Got the Corendon A350 arriving around that time. We've got two 747s underway, and we have the Emirates A388, but they're all expected before 1 p.m. Not sure if I will be able to make it though. Time will tell. Now, somewhere further north, El Al, and I think we might see it already. El Al 737-800 arriving from Tel Aviv in the top left corner is moving over here, turning onto the glide slope, giving us a few moments to spare to have a look at the current status quo. So in terms of the weather, broken clouds at 4,000 feet, meaning good glide slope visibility. Wind is blowing from the west-southwest, 10 knots, 304. The temperature is 9 degrees Celsius, just under 50 degrees Fahrenheit, relatively high pressure still. Visibility below the ceiling is 10 kilometers or more. Runway usage, as I said already, we are standing right here, the only runway being used for arrivals, and I'm expecting that the center runway is going to switch between secondary for departures and for arrivals, depending on what traffic jam, what rush hour is in play. In terms of big airplanes, Singapore Airlines arriving from Nairobi expected 12:40. The A380 expected around 12:20. Saudia, operated by Air Atlanta at Icelandic, so this is a different airplane than the normal Saudia cargo flying for Saudia, expected 10 minutes before the A380. Those are the big birds. There are other big birds coming, but these are all expected later. 5:20 p.m, 3:50 p.m, 1:30 p.m, 2:30 p.m. There are a couple of other airplanes coming that are interesting, among which the Arkia A321 Neo arriving from Israel. Don't see that very often. I don't recall having seen that airplane before, so hope that we might be able to see it land. If not on Polderbaan, then hopefully on the center runway with good visibility so that we can zoom in decently. Now, our next airplane, El Al flight 337 arriving from Tel Aviv, 737-800, flight time 4.5 hours, 17-year-old airplane, first flight June 2006. Does look like we might have a few moments to spare after this airplane has landed as well. A very good morning to everybody who has tuned in already. I see a lot of names in the chat already. Valentine, Canal Kurdistan, Jimmy Pirate, JD, Evan, top of the morning to you, sir. Michael. Firefighters already did their round. As I was approaching the parking place, I saw them pass by, so they were early today. Also seeing that the footage vibrates a little bit due to the orientation of the wind, almost perpendicular to the way I am filming right now. So what I am going to do is go enable image stabilizer already, just to make sure the footage is as smooth as possible. Right, looks like a couple of airplanes are approaching, but are still a few minutes out. I see an A319 from Lufthansa arriving from Munich, arriving from the east. I see KLM flight 758 arriving from the west. That's a 78710 Dreamliner arriving from Panama City. Off the coast, hey, let me see if I can spot it. 737 from KLM arriving from Paris Charles de Gaulle. Where is it? Should be flying off the coast in the vicinity of Haarlem. What altitude is it flying at? Let's check that out first of all. 2,500. Okay, that's low. Below the ceiling. In theory, should be able to spot it if I know where to look. Then again, it is relatively far out. No, don't think I will be able to spot it in time. Michael, goedemorgen. Ron Streams, good day to you too, sir. Who else has entered the chat? Marja, goedenavond. Good to see you again. Hope all is well. Leo, goedemorgen. Thomas, goedemorgen. Vanuit het zonnige Rotterdam-Zuid. Richard, goedemorgen kerel. Marik, goedemorgen. Greenlight, goedemorgen. Good morning. Salut Michel, ça va bien, merci. Et toi, et tu, comment ça va? Ruben, goedemorgen, greetings, tuning in from South Africa. John, Freddy. Johan, Sander, JWB, Eversteria, good to see you again, goedemorgen. Kevin Project, good morning. Andre 202, Lufthansa, good morning to you all. Rijbin, good morning, goedemorgen. Wanneer komt die grote vliegtuig van Dubai? The big plane from Dubai. That is expected around 12:20. Righty, now my chat window is acting up. That's not good. Right, let's just open it up again. Scrolling on my phone in my chat window never does it any good. It is very sensitive to freezing, i.e. not updating when new chats are being produced. So the best thing that I can do is just set the font size so that everything is legible, and then stay away from it. Don't touch it. Right, I think I'm now back at the bottom of the chat. Re-enable split screen. Right, I think I'm back at the bottom end of the chat and it seems to be updating. TV Dylan, goedemorgen, good morning. The Kurdistan, good morning. Christian, good morning, buongiorno. Ed, good morning. Nikos, good morning to you all. Hope everybody is doing well. Think everything is back in order again. All right. And also the first next airplane has become visible. It is the A319. Behind it is the 787-10 Dreamliner arriving from Panama City. We might be lucky and see airplane number 3 turn onto the glide slope in the background. Approaching from the left, that is the 737 from Paris that I tried to spot on its downwind leg but didn't see. Flight radar says it is turning onto the glide slope right now as we speak. And thank you so much, Moon, for your kind words. And Newbie here, great content, boys, superb. Thanks for all the effort and letting us be fun-size human again. Glad to be a service mate. Now at 8 o'clock-ish, yeah, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you see 2 lights. That is the 737-800. This is a Lufthansa flight 2302, A319. Arriving from Munich, the south of Germany, Bavaria. So yeah, our butt shot view is a bit obstructed. It would have been even worse if I had set up at the regular spot. Hope the dredging will be over soon. You can see they are getting more northerly by the day. Let's quickly turn back. KLM flight 758 is up next. Arriving from Panama City, 787-10 Dreamliner, flight time 8 hours 58 minutes. The airplane is 3 years old. The first flight was in August 2020. And good morning to Bisnovat. Steffi, guten Morgen. En Rogier, goedemorgen. Tuning in from Assen. And good morning, Grace Kelly, tuning in from Hamburg. Good to see you again. Lufthansa asks what runway this is. This is the Polderbaan runway 18 right. At the moment the only runway being used for arrivals. Mario, guten Morgen. Good to see you again. Herzlich willkommen. Ronald, goedemorgen. Mrs. Professor, good morning. Mrs. Professor says it's storming here. Hopefully the power doesn't go out. I sure hope that too for you guys. Over here, as you can see, grey as ever, with a bit of precipitation expected later in the day. Opinions vary about the time it's going to start to rain. Whether or not it's going to be in the afternoon or already in the late morning, time will tell. It is a bit more windy, but definitely not stormy. Now, need to zoom in a little bit. KLM flight 1224, flight 1224, arriving from Paris Charles de Gaulle. Was a bit too far zoomed out on flight radar. Pressed on the wrong label initially. It's a Dreamliner before it. JW Slijm, goedemorgen. JW asking if the bicycle is still standing there. The answer is affirmative. Police also know about it. Apparently nobody comes pick it up. More traffic on the cycling path. Tractors have been traveling back and forth a couple of times already. Next up, KLM flight 1352, Embraer 190, arriving from Prague, the Czech Republic, flight time 1 hour 12 minutes, 13-year-old airplane, first flight March 2010. And good morning, Lois. Dutch flight Simmer, good morning. And I see that the Ultimate is also in the chat. Good morning to you, my friend. And thank you so much for a totally unnecessary super chat, Alvin. Alvin says, hope you're not withdrawing too hard from the holiday, boy. Only time to drop in quickly today. Hope everyone's doing great. Well, I'm definitely doing better than I did last week. Recovering from the cold that I got for free on the last day of my holiday. The withdrawals are there, but being out here makes it go away substantially. Although something I'm withdrawing from very severely is the sunshine that I've had over there, with the exception of the last 1.5 days. 1 week of Italy, more sunshine than thus far the whole year of 2024 in the Netherlands has given me. Makes you realize what a sad, grey, monotonous place you live in over here. But otherwise, I'm doing very well. I hope the same goes for you, Alvin. Nice to see you again, mate. Hope you're not too busy with work and all other stuff that life throws at you. Evan says JD is lurking, boys. Say hi to him to surprise him. JD! Out there in Düsseldorf, are you hearing us? Give us a sign of life. Show us that you're there. Come out of your lurkers lounge seat and say hi to everybody in the chat. This is Turkish Airlines flight 1951, Airbus A330-300 arriving from Istanbul. Flight time 3 hours and 2 minutes, that is nominal. Always around 3 hours this distance on average. Adi Lane, goedemorgen. Indeed, nice commercial, nice ads for Volvo and Hitachi. Still need to find their contact details so I can send them the invoice for making advertisements for them for 2 days now, if not longer. Martijn, goedemorgen. Monique, goedemorgen. Good to see you again. Hope all is well. Random content creator, morning. just woke up 1 hour ago. Got a feeling it's going to be a good day. Well, I sure hope you're right in that respect. For not just for you, but for everybody, of course. Who's that honking? Well, the car on the left, just behind the excavator, is standing still. Not sure if it is occupied. Might be. Is that H1? No, wait, I think it was a VW van, right? It was a VW transporter, the bird control vehicle. This is a Mercedes. So this is a different vehicle. Okay, well, we'll see soon enough. Well, and there's a bird control vehicle also on the other side, by the looks of it. Oh, that is the VW, isn't it? The transporter. Yeah, I think that is. Hey. All right. Those look like ducks, insofar as my wobbly, pixelated, fully engaged digital zoom allows us to make out. More birds further to the north. Closer by, nothing to see, unfortunately, except metal birds. EasyJet A319, returning from Copenhagen. 15 years old, first flight February 2009. That van just turned. It's now parking right behind the closest by excavator. Well, doesn't say much. Also not on the side other than 50. It's 50 cent, Joe. Not sure what he would be doing here, but it's 50. 50. And this is not the bird control vehicle. These are firefighters' training vehicle, it says. Alrighty, next airplane to arrive, Pegasus A321neo, flight 1251, arriving from Istanbul, flight time 3 hours and 12 minutes. Brand new airplane, first flight September 2023. And Grace asks if I will be streaming tomorrow this time. Unfortunately not. I always have my day job on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so earliest that I can stream again, if weather will allow me to, in the coming week will be Thursday. And I'm not too sure about the weather, unfortunately. Shitty weather galore over here for months on end. But tomorrow and Wednesday I'm also busy with my day job. And that was K4, the actual bird controller. And Herman, goedemorgen. Mooi beeld weer. Nice pictures, he says. Thank you so much for your kind words, Herman. Monique asks, question, why don't you sell t-shirts in the KLM blue color? Well, good question. Never thought about it. Let me see if I picked all the colors that you can choose from. You cannot pick all the colors that are available or that are possible. It depends on the assortment for the specific product. Certain products you can only get in certain shades of blue or other colors. I thought I checked all the options available for all products insofar as it isn't clashing. So when I have a logo that is in white, I usually disable the option to have a white t-shirt because the white logo would clash with the white background color, and so too for the black logo. You probably cannot get that. You shouldn't be able to get that in black, but if there is a shade of blue possible, I would have selected it if I recall correctly. So I think the answer is it's probably not available via Spreadshirt, which is the shop. Now I have the merch store through. So you're basically stuck with the options that they can provide. But it is a very good question. Let me double check this afternoon if I have time for it, or otherwise later in the week, that there is not a blue option reminiscent to the KLM blue that I accidentally disabled, but it's probably because it isn't available, Monique. Airplanes are visible. SAS flight 1553 A320neo arriving from Stockholm, and in the background Aeromexico flight 25 arriving from Mexico City, Boeing 7878 Dreamliner. SAS flight 1553 A320neo, flight time 2 hours, no, 1 hour and 20 minutes. Brand new airplane, less than a year old, will turn 1 next month in March. Marek says, this morning I was able to put the orange pride on the picture with beautiful vortices over the wings. Sounds good. Haven't seen any vortices from the flap tips this morning so far, but we did have plenty of rain yesterday, so I can imagine that before wind was picking up, humidity was higher this morning, and you would have been able to see beautiful vortices, as we did the day before yesterday and Thursday as well. And good morning T-Mac, Marco, goedemorgen, Adri, good morning, tuning in from all the way from Argentina. Good morning to all other viewers who have joined in the meantime. THB, good morning from Germany, guten Morgen, herzlich willkommen, liebe deutsch sprechende Zuschauer. Not the loudest of landings, but definitely a nice one with a bit of spray when the reversers were applied. Luckily, the pilots did use the reversers on the landing. Right, Art, goedemorgen. Good to see you, mate. Did you go out spotting the day before yesterday in the end? Did not see you over here at Polderbaan. I thought you said you were also going out. Probably went to a different location then. Goedemorgen Gerrit. Even more vehicles in between. Yeah, I hope today is going to be the last day. I hope come Thursday or Friday, if the weather will allow me to go out, that by then the vehicles will have passed further to the north and will not be interfering too much anymore. It is of course only a temporary thing. The next two airplanes are already visible. First one being Tarom flight 361, arriving from Bucharest, today being flown in a 737-800. Flight time 2.5 hours, 6-year-old airplane, first flight April 2017. Behind it, an Embraer 175 from KLM, arriving from Zurich. Still faint to see, just 2 specks of light. We might pick up on a third airplane turning onto the glide slope from the left. EasyJet A320 arriving from London Gatwick. Aviation Intelligence asks if I will be spotting tomorrow. Unfortunately not. I always have my day job on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so earliest that I can go out again after today would be Thursday, if the weather will allow me to. And Art says, yeah, went to Kaagbaan. Hey Bart, goedemorgen kerel. Landed too early this morning. Did you return from a holiday destination? It was a bit later this morning than usual because I first had to get rid of my old mattresses. We have these city council disposal areas, Milieustraat in Dutch, where you can bring large pieces of trash, be it mattresses, pieces of roofing, tiles, wood, metal, whatever. If it's big and you want to get rid of it, that's where you can dump it. Unfortunately, in my living area, it's only open on weekdays from 8 till 12 in the morning. And Art went to the Kaagbaan and also visited the taxiway and the panorama terrace. Great show, mate. Have you already upgraded to a bit more substantial tripod for your camera? And Bart arrived in the Air Europa Dreamliner from Madrid. I thought I saw that when I was setting up or walking over here. Damn it. You should have distracted the pilots, asked them if they could go for another spin. Maybe go around the two or so times. Then I would have been able to capture your landing, Bart. Embraer 175. If you want to discern the Embraer 175 from the Embraer 190, look at the winglets. If you look at the winglets on this airplane, you can see that they are more outward facing than upward facing, or relatively outward facing, I should say, and relatively tall on the Embraer 190, and I'm sure we'll see a couple of those later. You will see that they are more vertical and also less tall than on the Embraer 175. Now, if your suspected Embraer doesn't have winglets at all, has a sleek fuselage and big ass engines, it is an E2 Embraer 195. And Art is still looking for a tripod. Found some cheap fluid heads. Well, be careful. Goedkoop is duurkoop is the saying in Dutch, and that is true for most things related to photography and video. The more expensive it is, the better it often is, and you're in the end often cheaper when buying something good in one go than buying something that isn't it, than having to upgrade relatively soon thereafter. If there's something I can do for you in terms of advice or thinking along, do let me know. I know that Bart also found a nice fluid head tripod on Marktplaats recently, so also check that out, Art, if you haven't done so already. Might find a nice deal, have something that suits your needs and then some right away. Yo, Alan, good morning. Alan asks, what time does the digger take off? Well, I don't know its ETA. I don't see it on flight radar just yet, so I'm thinking it's going to be a while. We've got two big ass airplanes coming in and flying a flying AMS Live logo followed by a 777. The AMS Live logo is KLM flight 636 arriving from Las Vegas. 7879 Dreamliner, the mid-size version, 9 hours and 18 minutes of flight time, 8 years old, first flight October 2015. The airplane behind it is arriving from Curaçao, Willemstad, 777-200 KLM flight 734. Well, we've just established that it's not just an optical thing, but it's also a functional thing, the reversers on KLM airplanes. And good morning, Donna. Good to join you. How are you doing? I am doing perfectly fine. Thank you for asking. Still a bit hoarse if you listen to my voice closely. That's because I still have a little bit of an itchy cough. Not productive anymore, luckily. Last remnants of a cold infection should wear off in the next couple of days. Otherwise, perfectly fine. And indeed, Nick did join last Saturday when you were taking the kids to football. I believe it was what he was writing. Hope you're doing well. Say hi to Nick for me. And Tukang is tuning in from Indonesia. Oh yeah, I totally forgot that Garuda Indonesia in the retro livery is also underway. Expected later in the morning. So we have the Garuda Indonesia 777-300 in retro livery coming, arriving later in the morning. Don't know exactly what time it will be landing, but it was underway and was expected in the morning, even around 11 or so. Of course, there's also an airplane arriving from Israel that we don't see every day. And the two 747s and A380 are also expected. If the weather will allow me to stay out until then, plans to stick around until 1 o'clock, which is when the Corendon A350 from Curaçao will be landing. I'm hearing a departure to the north, unfortunately, even though, let me show you the big picture. This is looking to the west. So this is approximately where the wind is coming from. Southwest, west. Looking to the west. It is overcast, but it's not looking like it's going to rain anytime soon. This is looking to the north. This is looking to the east. And this is looking to the south. This is where the wind is blowing from. This is where the weather is coming from. This is where the rain will also come from later in the day. Although what time it will arrive is still uncertain. If you go to different websites, they will say different things. KLM flight 1228 arriving from Paris, Charles de Gaulle, Paris. Similar to London in flight time, 40 to 45 minutes on average. More tractor movements over here. Now we did see a couple of ducks, I believe it were, further to the north and even more further to the north. Closer by, it is quiet, both in the water and outside of the water. Don't see any coots or anything. Well, obviously here they're working. Also the crow family, haven't seen them, nor the seagulls, Stephen, Sally. We'll have to make do with the flying birds then for the time being. And this is BA flight 8451 Embraer 190 returning from London City. 11 years old, first flight July 2012. Good morning, Georgios. Captain Edibos, good evening to you, my friend. Hope all is well. Tiger, good morning. Good to see you again. Hope you're doing well. Good morning to Rich. Now, also a big thank you to Rich. 2 months of membership and many more to come, he writes. Thank you so much for your continued support there, Rich. Hope you still like it in the lounge. If the seats are not to your liking, there is a complaint or suggestion box in the community section. Do let us know. If the seats need refurbishing, now we'll get on the way to have it sorted. EasyJet. And after that, ladies and gentlemen, members, get out your playtime emojis and make sure your hand is in the vicinity of the butt shot emoji, because even though the visibility on butt shots today is suboptimal, we might get one from the airplane up next. Play flight 460 A321neo, visiting Amsterdam from Reykjavik in Iceland. And today, flown in an A321neo. Flight time at the moment is 2 hours and 35 minutes. That is par for the course. 6-year-old airplane. Began flying in January 2018. You can see another airplane in the background. That is an Embraer 190 from KLM, arriving from London City. And Maskargo should be somewhere behind it. I'm wondering, can we see that already? A330-200. If visibility is good enough, normally speaking, you would be able to see it. It's not exactly a small airplane, the A330, but we're not seeing it just yet, so patience is a virtue. We will see it soon enough. Ali asks, why do they all deploy the reverser but never use them? That's a good question. Well, I think it is part of the checklist to arm the or well, no, that's just the spoilers. The spoilers get armed, but they manually have to pull the lever. Not sure. Apparently they do need to use the braking that you get from bleeding off some of the thrust, because opening those valves will lead to less thrust when idling. I suppose that is what they need. Maybe it's force of habit, I don't know. It's a good question, Ali. I will say that. Now, unobstructed butt shots. Even though we are standing a bit further to the north and we see them from the side. And also nicely visible departures from center. And we are seeing a cable being tightened here. Also interesting to see, there is a cable attached on the top of the excavator thing, and it pulls it further. Not exactly sure why, but it will mean that the barge and the other excavator are going to get closer by later in the day. The barge scrapes off some of the sand, the excavator also digs it out, and trucks take away the excess sand and stuff. But we are going to be able to see butt shots unobstructedly again for the time being. As long as it will last. Off-axis butt shots. With departures in the background, and due to the lighting it looks quite crisp. Lovely. That is exactly what I intend to do, Donna. Send invoices to Hitachi and to Volvo for making ads for them. Now, Maskargo A332 about to land over here, arriving from Doha. This A332 is 12 years old. The first flight was in August 2011. Servus Peppy tuning in from Innsbruck again. Good to see you. Hope all is well. And P. Widden. Good day to you, sir. Or madam. Brilliant again, watching from my coach at work. Awesome, multitasking at its finest. Ronald says that the barge is connected to the cable. I thought it would be, but I didn't know for sure. I figured it would make sense. So the excavator has now been set at a new point. Well, and the man operating the excavator is now walking back, probably to the barge, to continue the dredging. In the meantime, more traffic is coming. We already saw the first airplane approach, KLM flight 1002, arriving from London Heathrow, 737-800, 15 years old, first flight February 2008, and the ITA. The first ITA of the day will be behind it. That would be ITA Airways flight 108 arriving from Rome, and that would be an A320neo. So if you tuned in just now, welcome to the show. You're watching AMS Live. My name is Boy. This is Polderbaan arrivals. Polderbaan being runway 18 right. The colloquial name for the runway. It's also the first day that runway 2406, colloquially called I need coffee. The Kaagbaan. That runway is now closed for maintenance until the second half of April at least. Colloquially, tongue breaker at this early time of day. Anyway, ITA Airways flight 108 up next, arriving from Rome, A320neo, flight time 2 hours precisely. Brand new airplane, first flight April 2023. Another airplane in the top left is visible. That is another 737-800 from KLM arriving from Geneva. And good morning Land Rover. And Matt, goedemorgen. Good morning Alan. And good morning to Roman, tuning in from Warsaw, Poland. Welcome to the show, mate. Hope you're doing well. All other viewers who have joined in the meantime as well, good morning and welcome. So this runway is being used for arrivals. The center and left runways to the south are being used for departures. And it is my guess that the center runway will later transform into a secondary runway for arrivals once the arrival rush hour begins. Pattern that we've seen happen several times before. Might also make going to the center runway interesting again for a change in the upcoming weeks. Since Polderbound will be in use and the center runway will also be in use much more because of the closure of the temporary closure of runway 0624. KLM flight 1926 in the foreground, arriving from Geneva, and an EasyJet A319 arriving from Edinburgh in the background. Alrighty. And good morning to Videorama HD. Thank you for the kind words. En goedemorgen Johanna. And words are indeed hard, Xiamara. Colloquially. That's a damn difficult word. Two airplanes are visible in the foreground. EasyJet A319 arriving from Edinburgh. Flight time 57 minutes. 15-year-old airplane, first flight February 2009. Behind it is ITA Airways, the second ITA of the day. The first one was from Rome, the second one will have to be from Milan. The A320 and also flight 120. Hey Michael, good morning, good to see you again. Hope all is well. And Jeroen is informing us that the A321neo from Transavia left Faro in Portugal 15 minutes ago. What's its estimated time of arrival, approximately, at this time? Thank you, John, for your kind words. That's a bit of reassurance that it's also a difficult word for English speakers, for native speakers. Colloquially. It is a tongue breaker that you have to say a couple of times, and you shouldn't say that a couple of times. If you've had a few drinks, then I think it's going to be even more messy. Well, the only drinks I've had so far are coffee and water, so that should not be the reason I'm breaking my tongue. And indeed, 3 times word value in Scrabble. Hey Wendy, also in the chat. Good to see you again. Hope all is well. You can see with the wind, even though it's not very substantial, there's a little bit of crabbing action taking place just because the wind is a bit westerly. ITA Airways, flight 120, arriving from Milan. Flight time 1 hour and 27 minutes. The airplane is 14 years old. The first flight was in December of the year 2009. Right, and I do believe that the barge is moving because the cable was making waves just now. I think it got taut because of the barge pulling on it. So the cable is basically a guide wire. Wendy says, all is well, thanks. I'm almost always watching, but not always in the chat. Well, always nice to see you popping up in the chat, and I'm happy to hear that you're doing well. And I see that Mr. Cole is also back in the land of the living. Good morning, mate. Can they rent that cabin on the trailer over the dike? Would make a lovely airside B&B. Definitely, definitely. If they would park it right here, maybe a portaloo safely secured to the ground so that it doesn't get blown away. If they also could provide some electricity, that would be great. I will bring my own coffee maker, no worries. Got a couple laying around, so we should be well and sorted then, particularly given the weather over here. Still a long way from summer over here. Now, JetBlue arriving from Boston, giving us a little bit of sunshine. So Lance is back in the chat, but Jerry is still MIA. He's missed out on several glide slope shots already. Hope he's doing well. If anybody has heard of him, let us know in the chat. Also, do say hi to him from me. And Jeroen says 13:11 expected arrival. The Transavia A321 Neo, that is. Well, hope I am going to be around until then. Not sure yet. Depends on the rain predictions. And good morning, Daniel. Josephine, good morning. Mason, the Australian boy, good morning. Peter, goedemorgen. Tuning in from Amsterdam. Now, you're right, Rob, in that airplanes of KLM, at least the current fleet, are unable to reach Australia directly, that is, but that I do believe that earlier KLM did fly to Australia, albeit with a pit stop in between somewhere in Southeast Asia. However, they don't do that anymore. But I do recall that they did used to fly to Australia, albeit not directly, but with a stop maybe in Singapore in between. Now folks, if you're liking what you're seeing and you haven't done so already, do drop a like. It helps to spread this content to other aviation enthusiasts such as yourselves, who might also be interested in content such as this but haven't heard of AMS Live yet. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already to stay informed of upcoming live streams. Morgen? Tuurlijk. Ja, zeker. Ik ben op YouTube, ben ik nu live. AMS Live, dat ben ik. AMS Live. AMS Live. Ja, man. Leuk, man. Ja, nee, ik ben nu live inderdaad. Hey, leuk, man. Is goed. Fijne dag, dank je. The guy operating the yellow 50 van that is parked right on the other side of the canal over here was asking me if I might be live somewhere, so told him AMS Live, that's the place where you need to be. Next up, British Airways flight 430, Airbus A320 arriving from London Heathrow, flight time 40 minutes. The airplane is 21 years old, the first flight was in June 2002, and I do see that the center runway is going to be used for arrivals as a secondary runway. See a Qatar Dreamliner arrival from Doha. On flight radar, that is going to be the first airplane landing on the center runway. Also looks like we have a few minutes to spare before traffic to Polderbaan will be arriving, so let's do an update of the briefing. Quickly. Right. Let's have a look. Current status quo. Let's first begin with the weather and let me refresh and run you through the weather. I will also copy paste the meter, put it in the ticker. The wind is blowing from the west southwest. It has increased a little bit. It was 10 knots earlier. It is now 14 knots. We have few clouds at 1,000 feet. We have a ceiling of 3,800 feet. Below the ceiling, 10 plus kilometers of visibility. The air temperature is 10 degrees Celsius, that is 50 Fahrenheit, relatively high pressure, no significant changes in the upcoming 2 hours are expected. Runway usage is lagging. This runway is now also being used for arrivals, and this runway is closed until the second half of April at least, due to major maintenance. In terms of big birds coming this way, the Transavia A321neo is expected around 10 past 1. Singapore Airlines is expected at 12:40. We have Saudia in a special version operated by JetOneX / Air Atlanta Icelandic, expected at 12:15. That is 5 minutes, just over 5 minutes before the Emirates A380 is expected. Let's also have a look. Let me change my filter to just inbound for Amsterdam, and there's also another airplane underway. Arkia arriving from Tel Aviv, also an airplane that we don't see very often. And is it already very close by? Yeah. Oh, here it is. We are not going to see it on Polderbaan, but we will be able to see it from a distance. The Garuda Indonesia 777-300 in the retro livery. So if you don't have to be anywhere, stick around. If the weather will allow me to, I am planning to stick around until approximately 1 o'clock. And with the Transavia A321neo expected around 10 past 1, that would be a nice last airplane of the day, if the weather will allow me to. Let's also have a look at that in a moment. This is a Qatar Dreamliner arriving from Doha. And fresh trucks are arriving on this side of the water. Might obstruct the view a little bit. As these are going to pick up some of the sand that is now gathered in the barge. But they will continue until the point where the barge is, so probably not going to interfere that much. But it is getting relatively busy over here. Pickup drop here as well. And parallel arrivals now in progress. There's also an airplane coming this way, number 175, arriving from Norwich. Let me first paste that METAR into the ticker for you guys so you can read back the latest weather. And let me also update runway usage, because center is now being used for arrivals as well. Right. We could also have a quick look at the weather radar, see what it says. This is Buienradar. Oh, this is Buienradar, one source of information, and this is the 3-hour extrapolation. We are a little bit left of the yellow square, which is Schiphol Airport, and scrolling up a little bit, you can see the time over here, and it does seem to indicate that we are not going to be able to make it dry until all the airplanes that I just showed you guys, if this is going to be true, of course. Let's have a look at past hour, see what that looks like, because what I'm seeing is also that stuff is dissolving as it is moving to the west. So it is an extrapolation, it is an expectation, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean it's going to come true. So we'll see. Embraer 175 having arrived from Norwich, and the next airplane to arrive on Polderbaan is going to be KLM flight 598, arriving from Cape Town, South Africa. Triple 300 ER, flight time 11 hours and 7 minutes. The airplane 8 years old, the first flight was in February 2016. Now, a very big thank you to Milch Intolerance for just becoming a member. I think you were a member already, probably renewing. Thank you so much for your continued support, Milch Intolerance. Hope you still like it in the lounge. Be sure to use those custom emojis whenever you feel like it. It's the PHBVP up next. And after that, a Ryanair 737 arriving from Dublin. Alright, next up, Ryanair flight 420. (737-800) returning from Dublin, flight time 1 hour and 3 minutes. That is par for the course. Dublin, Amsterdam, on average an hour away. The airplane is 16 years old. The first flight was in March 2007. And at 10 o'clock you will see an A320neo from EasyJet arriving from Birmingham. And flying just behind it, but to runway center, is the 777 from Garuda in the retro livery. There you go, the barge is getting cleaned. The smudge is being carried away in the trucks. Hey Aphrodite, goedemorgen. Good to see you again. Hope all is well. Now, does look like the sun is out there somewhere, even though we don't get to see it directly. A320neo EasyJet flight 27846 arriving from Birmingham. Flight time 46 minutes. 4-year-old airplane, first flight October 2019. And parallel arriving to it is the 777-300 from Garuda. There we go, Garuda Indonesia. Arriving from Jakarta in the retro livery, Garuda Indonesia flight 88. This airplane has been flying on this leg for 14 hours and 25 minutes. 14 hours and 25 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. The airplane is 9 years old. The first flight was in August 2014. Garuda Indonesia 777-300 ER flight 88. Almost got slashed by the tail of EasyJet. Just clearing the van. It's a tight fit. A lot of vehicles to evade. There it is. Magnificent airplane. Pity that we did not see it directly on Polderbaan, but at least we have enough clearance and zoom to see it land properly on the center runway. Good morning, Jamie X, and all other viewers who might have joined us in the meantime. You're watching AMS Live. My name is Boy. This is Polderbaan runway 18 right. Currently one of 2 runways being used for arrivals together with the center runway. It's the first day of the major maintenance closure of the Kaagbaan runway 2406. At the moment, with the wind blowing from the west-southwest, all 3 north-south oriented runways are being used. 18 left dedicated to departures, 18 right dedicated to arrivals, and center switching between the 2 as a secondary runway for either, depending on the rush hour of inbound or outbound traffic. The canal that borders the airport area and the public area is getting excavated, is getting deepened. That's what you're hearing. That's why the excavators and trucks and stuff are over here. This is a KLM 737-700 flying, well, it is a Transavia 737, but it is flying for KLM. It's a rental. It's the old standard livery with the rainbow on the front, a bit more colorful. Returning from Copenhagen and flying as KLM 1126. Flight time 1 hour and 4 minutes. 20-year-old airplane. The first flight was in February 2003. And a regular KLM 737 in the meantime just landed on Polderbaan. Isa says film is number 50. There you go. Van number 50. Over here on the other side of the canal. Misam, good morning. And all other viewers, good morning. Lucas, goedemorgen. That is the man in the van waving to us. And in the meantime, as we're waiting for traffic to Polderbaan, there is traffic coming to the center runway. It is an Air France Embraer 170 Air France op-op arriving from Lyon. Flight time 1 hour and 23 minutes. The airplane is 19 years old. The first flight was in June 2004. Now might also be the moment that they are going to do a runway inspection, but the answer to that is no, because right behind me one of the bird control pickup trucks is driving along the road on this side of the runway. And not on the tarmac of the runway itself, so there's no inspection going on. Just have to wait a little bit for next traffic to Polderbaan. Zooming out, there is an Embraer 190 arriving from Southampton, already coming this way. Still a bit out, so we will have to entertain ourselves with traffic to runway center first. Oh! No, I made a mistake. This obviously is not an Embraer 170. This is an A320 from Iberia Express arriving from Madrid. Now, one truck already passed the barge, but not moving away. So I'm wondering, is it filled already or not? More tractors on this side. Looks like they're checking something. Obviously the trailer is now not in the proper orientation. The question is it malfunctioning? Absolutely no idea. Oh, it is now level again. Right, well, in the meantime, turning back to traffic coming to our runway, finally. KLM flight 918 arriving from Southampton. Embraer 190, flight time 47 minutes. 14-year-old airplane, first flight June 2009. And QJ says that the DAPRI Choc-y is coming, assigned to Polderbaan. That is nice. Oh, and I see Anja as well. Goedemorgen. Right. Now, as we're watching the barge getting emptied behind us, another airplane is approaching. KLM flight 1072 arriving from Manchester. 737-800. Let's turn around and have a look. And another airplane behind it. EasyJet A319 arriving from London Gatwick, and further north, probably not yet visible, is another Embraer 190 arriving from Glasgow. Thinking if we were to see it, it should be somewhere in the bottom left. But I think visibility doesn't allow us to see so far to the north, unfortunately. KLM flight 1072 arriving from Manchester, 737-800, 23 years old, first flight December 2000. And flying parallel to it, to the center runway, is an A320 from Swiss, arriving from Zurich. Well, it's actually a bit ahead of it. There it is. The Zurich A320 arriving from the Swiss A320 arriving from Zurich. The Zurich A320. Right, up next to the Polderbaan, EasyJet flight 28679, A319 arriving from London Gatwick, flight time 40 minutes. The airplane is 14 years old, first flight November 2009. You can see that the airplanes are crabbing a little bit more as the wind is picking up ever so slightly, now approaching 16 knots. A parallel landing still in progress. Embraer 175 from KLM flying just ahead of this airplane to runway center, arriving from Stavanger. They are flying nicely back and forth in between, nicely spaced out, I should say. Hey, Mr. Biker also in the chat. Good morning, Paul. Good to see you. Hope all is well. Hope you guys are having more sunshine over there in Yorkshire than we do over here. But the answer is probably not. Something that the Brits and the Dutchies share alike is shitty weather most time of the year. When I left still being used for departures, it's a 3 runway parallel situation where all 3 north-south runways are being used, with today being the first day of the closure of the Kaagbaan runway 0624 for major maintenance, at least until the end of, or the second half of April. Austrian Airlines flight 379 is approaching runway center, coming in from Vienna. Flight time 1 hour and 27 minutes. The airplane 15 years old. The first flight was in June 2008. Meanwhile, landing over here is Choc-y, the DAPRI Laissez-Fleur Chocolaterie German Airways special livery, flying for KLM still, returning from Glasgow. Take in the calories, celebrate with the custom emoji, chocolatey goodies. Won't be too long anymore. I think the rental contract was renewed until after the winter season, quote unquote. Don't know exactly until when that is, but it's not going to be indefinite, unfortunately. And Satori Studios, good morning, tuning in from Leidschendam. Han, goedemorgen, good to see you as well. Actually, blue skies and sunshine, wow. I'm not jealous, but I am jealous. Over here, another Embraer 190 is coming this way, KLM flight 1050, arriving from Bristol. Also going to mute the voiceover mic and blow my nose because I am a bit full. Right, voiceover should be back in progress. Should be back operational, back up again, I should say. And I should sound a little less full now. Now, as we're watching an A320 Neo from EasyJet arriving from Geneva, approaching the center runway. Over here on Polderbaan we are expecting Iceland Air. Hey, and that is a triple. No, that's a Dreamliner taking off from 18 left. That's next to the McDonald's. Unfortunately, the Iceland Air is a Max 8 in the new livery. Not that exciting visually. Not like the 757 and 767s that we saw earlier in the week. Iceland Air Flight 500 arriving from Reykjavik. Flight time 2 hours 26 minutes. It's a Max 8, 5 years old. First flight February 2019. And Jewish Slime is informing us that the airplane we saw take off was going to Bangalore. Thank you for that. Now, the next airplane to arrive on Polderbaan has the livery of Transavia, but is flying for KLM. It is a rental arriving from Birmingham. Seven 800 Flight time 41 minutes. The airplane 21 years old. The first flight June 2002. And indeed, Luca, it is Transavia on the outside, but it is flown by KLM actually. Now, looks like there's also a BizJet going to the Schiphol Oostbaan. Valer arriving from Malaga. Cessna Citation Jet. I'm not sure if I can see that. Visibility is decent enough that I should be able to pick it up somewhere in the distance, but it is a very small airplane and it is still very far out. Windy, definitely. Also a couple of spotters on the other side of the runway, it seems like. Yeah, a couple of people standing there. And that Cessna Citation should be over the city somewhere. Not seeing it just yet. I do see birds getting closer by. So let's have a look. That is a coot. That is another coot. And the next airplane coming to Polderbaan, also visible by now, grabbing a little bit. KLM flight 696. It's an Airbus A332-200. Arriving from Toronto, Canada. Flight time 6 hours 15 minutes. 18-year-old airplane. First flight July 2005. There's another airplane behind it somewhere, but it is a tiny airplane. It is further out. Not seeing it yet. Maybe we need to look a bit lower. Yeah, there it is at 7 o'clock in the bottom left quadrant of the field of view. Barely visible. Also seeing that the Arkia Israeli Airlines is in Dutch airspace. Will very likely land on the center runway, but we should be able to zoom in well enough to see the details in its livery. An airplane that you don't see very often. First up, KLM flight 696 arriving from Toronto, Canada. 6 hours and 17 minutes of flight time under its belt on this flight. Has been flying now for 18 years, since July 2005. I think that's a few months older than my car, which I believe began driving in October 2005. Alrighty. Hans, goedemorgen. Happy birthday, mate. Congratulations. Now the next airplane arriving from Edinburgh is a KLM E2 Embraer with the 1700th E-Jet sticker, but it's only placed on the left hand side, so we won't be able to see it. Will look like a standard livery from our point of view. KLM flight 1278. Flight time between Edinburgh and where it is in the sky right now has been an hour thus far. It's a year old. First flight was in September 2022. Let's see. Also looking to my left to see there's an A320neo arrival from Milan, flying to the north just off the coast. Unfortunately, visibility to the west, well, it does look like it is open as anywhere else in the sky. And Cor, goedemorgen, tuning in from Rehabilitation Center De Parkgraaf in Utrecht. Hope your rehabilitating goes well, Cor. More tractors coming this way. Right. Hey, that's good news, Maria. Arkia Israeli Airlines assigned to Polderbaan. That probably will mean that Polderbaan is going to become the only runway for arrivals again pretty soon. Why else would Arkia arriving from the east otherwise be assigned to Polderbaan? So that is good news, Maria. Thanks for letting us know. Means that there are a few more airplanes going to runway center, and then center will probably be used as a secondary runway for departures once again. I'm also going to have a look at the runway usage in the upcoming days. Thinking about maybe going back to the northern threshold of the center runway again when there's more action to be seen because of the continuous use of the center runway, and also the continuous use of Polderbaan means that traffic to or from Polderbaan will have to move around the thresholds, and if they use the northern threshold, then you can see not only traffic to and from the center runway from the threshold of center, but also the airplanes to and from Polderbaan will also often taxi right in front of you. So that might make a nice change of scenery versus just standing at the Polderbaan. Luckily, the runway maintenance of Kagbaan is major and will last multiple weeks. It's expected to last at least until the second half of April. And that is if there are no delays, of course, in those works, which you never know for sure. 737-900 from Brussels to Amsterdam. KLM flight 1724. Flight time 28 measly minutes. This airplane, 22 years old, began flying in the month of 9/11, September 2001. Hey, has that barge sneakily gotten a little closer? I think it has, or just looked at it. I just looked at it through my viewfinder and my camera screen, so it looked further away than it actually was. Right, there's an E2 Embraer arriving to runway center from Stockholm. Maybe that's the last airplane on the center runway to land for now. I think it is, by the looks of it. Got one of those fat bikes over here. E-bike with fat tires. I can tell you that this little young man is cycling a bit faster than 25 kilometers per hour, which is officially the maximum speed you're allowed to cycle on them. That's more like a moped, 40 kilometers per hour. Oh, and I see that they are on the move with my little bed and breakfast. They're moving it. Still on the wrong side of the water though, but they are moving it. Got some big birds coming to Polderbaan. Besides the Arkia A321 Neo that is also flying downwind still. On the glide slope already established. A 787-10 Dreamliner arriving from Atlanta, Georgia, and a 777-200 arriving from Rio de Janeiro is not far behind it. And indeed, aviation antics, those fat bikes rarely comply with regulations. That's in fact why it was on the news the other day that they were going to test them like they do with mopeds, put them on one of those rollers that you can test out the maximum speed with. Right, well, that's the last airplane to center for the time being. Polderbaan now once again the only runway being used for arrivals. I will update the ticker when I get the time for it, when I get the chance for it. Rick, goedemorgen. Good morning, good to see you. Yeah, okay, Michael. Measly minutes for Brussels, but the shortest flight you guys did was 5 minutes. I also know, I think Wendover Productions also made a video of the shortest flight on Earth, which was from one island to the other. That was also minutes or even less. Of course, all these distances are relatively measly if you compare it with anything medium haul to long haul, and particularly if it is contiguous mainland and you also have infrastructure such as highways between those capitals and railway systems that are partly high speed, I believe. Still boggles the mind. I mean, it's not like I'm anti-aviation by any means, but some flights I do wonder, is it really necessary? Anyway, I digress. Let me quickly update the ticker and update runway usage, which now should say 18 left. 18C. Arrivals just 18 right. Let's also do a quick update of the meter. If there is some time for that. Right, it is Big Bird time. Two big birds in one shot. The first one being KLM flight 622, 787-10 Dreamliner arriving from Atlanta, Georgia. 6 hours 53 minutes of flight time. The airplane 4 years old. First flight December 2019. The airplane behind it is arriving from Rio de Janeiro. Is a 777-200 ER. KLM flight 706. Nice glide slope shot there. Bottoms up. Simon says that in the Scottish Orkney Islands there's a scheduled flight where the record is 53 seconds. I think that might be the one that Wendover also made a video about. Well, now all of a sudden blockage from our point of view. Right, well, this was a good place to stand at earlier. Now it's becoming increasingly more crowded over here. I do see that the Crow crew has arrived in the meantime. But they're also not liking the ruckus that the trucks are making. Right, now, insofar as we are able to see it still, KLM flight 706, arriving from Rio de Janeiro, 777-200, flight time 10 hours 42 minutes, 16-year-old airplane. Sounds a lot like a V8 is powering it. First flight April 2007, the PHBQP. After this airplane, the Arkia A321neo arriving from Tel Aviv. I think that is a channel premiere. Cannot recall having seen that airplane before. Now, colorful airplane coming up next, at least if the picture that I see on Flight Radar is correct. Also, even though it said on Flight Radar that precipitation was coming this way, it does look like there are even some more openings in the sky, including to the west, where the wind is blowing from. So, fingers crossed that it's going to stay dry at least until a little past 1 o'clock. Until the Transavia A321neo has also landed. Right, this is Arkia Israeli Airlines flight 511 arriving from Tel Aviv. It's an A321neo, flight time 4 hours and 31 minutes, 5-year-old airplane, first flight October 2018, and to my knowledge a channel premiere. The wind is blowing from the west-southwest. Was initially 10 or so knots, now around 15 knots or 4 bow 4, which is why you can see that the airplanes approaching today are increasingly crabbing. Haven't seen any go-arounds yet, for those of you wondering. Now, luckily there are no vehicles in the way when it passes right along us. Nice. Might have our thumbnail for today's show there. Right, next up, KLM flight 1008, arriving from London Heathrow 737-800. Flight time 40 minutes, par for the course, 23-year-old airplane, first flight September 2000. Hey Roy, goedemorgen. Yeah, still morning, just 10 more minutes. Good to see you, mate. Hope all is well. Now, big picture wise, some openings in the sky, even in the direction of the wind. Wind is blowing from this direction more or less. Not going to be so bold to say we're going to see the sunshine in a minute from now, but it is opening up a little bit, it seems like. Next up, KLM flight 1754, Embraer 190 arriving from Bremen in the north of Germany. Also short flight, 36 minutes thus far, and the airplane itself, 13 years old, has been flying since August 2010. Alright, next up, Ryanair arriving from Dublin, flight 3006. It's a 737-800. Flight time has been 1 hour and 3 minutes. That is average for Dublin, Amsterdam. That is always around an hour or so. This airplane has been flying now for 11 years in total. The airplane began flying in April 2012. Reverses and a butt shot to boot. There we go. It is an off-axis butt shot today because of the goings on the other side of the water. So I'm still a bit further to the north than I normally would be. It's not a directly straight butt shot. There you go. Now, Cessna citation from Luton to Amsterdam. What altitude is it crossing? 8,000 feet. That is above the ceiling, so no need to look up. We won't be able to see it, even though we get to see it on flight radar. Embraer 190 up next, arriving from Helsinki, Finland. Flight time. I was too late with pressing on the label. Nearly 2 hours. No, an hour, 2 hours and 5 minutes, actually. Which I believe is average. Helsinki is approximately 2 hours away. Airplane 10 years old. Right, more Embraers. Embraer 175 up next, arriving from Luxembourg, KLM flight 1740. It feels like the wind is picking up a little bit. Let's also do a quick check of the METAR, shall we? So, in terms of the weather, let's do a refresh. Yeah, still broken clouds in the ceiling of 4,500 feet. Air temperature still 10 degrees Celsius. 13 knot wind from 250 degrees. Not much has changed in that respect. Runway usage. This is the only runway being used for arrivals, and the other two north-south oriented runways are being used for departures. In terms of the bigger birds, we have the first two approaching. The Saudia JetOneX Air Atlanta Icelandic, diverging from standard Jeddah cargo. Saudia cargo is approaching Dutch airspace. Not far behind it is the Emirates A380. Given the current runway usage, very likely candidates, both of them, to land on Polderbaan. Also just southeast of Paris, and expected in less than an hour, Singapore Airlines. And if weather will allow me to, this is going to be the last airplane of the day, returning from Faro in Portugal, expected around 1:18, Transavia A321 Neo. Right. Hey Dirk, goedemiddag. Also back in the chat, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Now, if you are liking what you're seeing and you haven't done so already, make sure to like the stream. It helps to spread this content to other aviation enthusiasts such as yourself, who might also be interested in content such as this. Now, the next airplane to arriving from London City, KLM flight 988. Flight time 40 minutes. The airplane 14 years old. The first flight October 2009. Somewhere behind it, yeah, at 10 to 11 o'clock is an A320 Neo from EasyJet arriving from London Luton. And even though we had higher wind speeds earlier, 15 knots compared to the 13 in the latest METAR, you can still see that the airplanes are struggling with a little bit of crosswind today. Increasingly so, more so than the airplanes at the beginning of the stream did. Meanwhile, the barge is getting emptied still. And our next airplane to approach is EasyJet flight 22515, arriving from London Luton, A320neo, flight time 43 minutes, 5-year-old airplane, first flight December 2018. And what is coming next? Well, nothing immediately behind it. Interesting. Have to wait a few more minutes. Does look like that Cessna is now flying over Amsterdam. VistaJet. Big picture wise, this is what it looks like. This is where the wind is coming from. We also see Sally or Steven, either of the two of the seagulls. Now you can even see just how much they have dug up. There's a little sand dike that has formed before the barge. Or the barge has returned, has backed off a little bit. That might also have been the case. Definitely a lot of shit that they are excavating. The next airplane is not yet on the glide slope, but is approaching it. It should approach from relatively close by. I think I have it already. There it is. It is KLM flight 1780. Arriving from Hamburg, Embraer 190, flight time 41 minutes. Ten-year-old airplane, first flight November 2013. There we go. And hello to Halil as well. And all other viewers who might have joined in the meantime. You're watching AMS Live, my name is Boy. We're standing next to the Polderbaan, runway 18 right, currently the only runway being used for arrivals. Arriving soon are a 747 flying for Saudia, followed within 10 minutes by the Emirates A380. The runway we are standing next to is currently the only runway being used for arrivals. So that bodes well. And I see Adri is signing off until the following stream. See you next time, Adri. Thank you for joining and see you on the next one, hopefully. Now, footage is a bit shaky. Let me lock the tripod. That will help. Image stabilizer can only ameliorate so much. Afrodite confirming that the 747 from Jeddah assigned to Polderbaan. Not unexpectedly, but always nice to have the reassurance that it is confirmed. then the same will happen to the A380. Good news. Let me also see if maybe the dynamic image stabilizer makes a difference compared to the standard that I have been using thus far. Still don't know what exactly the difference is. I'm assuming dynamic image stabilizer compensates for more vibrations. Although that probably won't make much of a difference for the minor vibrations that you see that are caused by the wind. Worth a try. Right, that is now enabled. Yeah, you really need to lock the tripod when it's windy like it is today, and also when being zoomed in as much as I am right now. And good day, Graham, tuning in from Auckland, is that? AKL, New Zealand, Auckland, I'm thinking. Welcome to the stream, mate. Happy Tuesday for you then. Over here it's still Monday. Right, let's go back to optical zoom range. The next airplane to approach is number 190, arriving from Leeds, KLM flight 1546. Not far behind it is an EasyJet A320 arriving from Belfast. And let's see, I see a big bird coming in. 777-300 arriving from Sao Paulo. Little bumpy, but there you go. One of the German Airways Embraers flying for KLM. Righty. EasyJet flight 23051 up next, arriving from Belfast, Ireland. Flight time an hour and 1 minute. 14-year-old airplane, first flight July 2009. It's an A320, and we might get to see the next airplane behind it turning onto the glide slope from the left. An Embraer 175, KLM flight 962, arriving from Newcastle. Unfortunately not visible just yet. Right. Two airplanes visible, the first airplane being Embraer 175 KLM Flight 962 arriving from Newcastle, the next airplane behind it KLM Flight 792 arriving from Sao Paulo, a 777-300ER. Flight time 10 hours and 38 minutes for the 777-300, 7 years old. KLM Flight 962, the Embraer 175 arriving from Newcastle up first. Flight time 52 minutes. The airplane is 7 years old. First flight March 2016. An Embraer 175 off-axis butt shot. There we go. Right, Aphrodite says that the flight from Jeddah is expected in 7 minutes. That is good news. We're going to warm up with some more heavies. To begin with, this 777-300 arriving from Sao Paulo, KLM Flight 792, flight time 10 hours and 40 minutes. The airplane 7 years old. The first flight was in May 2016, nearly as old as the previous airplane that began flying in March of the same year. Alrighty, let's see. Hey Eva, also back in the chat. Good to see you. Hope all is well. Turkish or no, Anadolu Jet, I think, is the next airplane to approach. Operated by Smartlinks, arriving from Istanbul. Flying base somewhere further to the north. According to Flight Radar, it is turning final. Question is it somewhere where we can see it already? I think the answer is no, but maybe on the laptop screen you guys can see it. I don't think I'm seeing it just yet. I do see the first of two 747s approaching mainland North Holland already. Looks like it is going to be the number 3 then. No, there's really nothing to see visually either. The Coots are, well, at least one of the two that we saw earlier is coming closer by. Oh no, there's the other one. Cool. As long as that excavator isn't moving and not a lot of ruckus is being made, they're not afraid to show themselves. They are still the only birds over here in the vicinity in the water, as far as I can tell. Maybe one bird further to the north, but really not much to see otherwise. And also behind the barge I'm not seeing anything. Not close by at least. So that is a bit unfortunate. More tractors on the move on the cycling path. It is one of those busy days where the tractors are moving back and forth constantly, it seems like. Now in the meantime we have gotten closer to seeing that first airplane, Anadolu Jet, operated by SmartLynx, arriving from Istanbul, A320, flight 7768, flight time 3 hours 7 minutes. That is nominal for Istanbul, Amsterdam, which is always approximately 3 hours. The airplane is 13 years old, has been flying since June 2010. And here you can see it coming, drifting this way. Now, thank you so much, Paul, for just now gifting 5 memberships. That is definitely unnecessary. You know that just as well as I do. You're doing more than enough as a moderator as it is already. You, of all people, should not have to do any membership gifting, but thank you so much. If you are one of the recipients of Paul's gifted memberships, don't forget to thank him for it. Welcome to the Aurora Sky Lounge, those 5 new members. Be sure to use the custom emojis that are now at your disposal whenever you see fit. Paul, thank you so much, but really unnecessary, mate. You're doing more than enough as it is, but thank you so much nonetheless. A little Anadolu butt shot to boot. Albeit one that formed slowly. There you go. Right, now the first of 2 747s is approaching the glide slope further to the north, looking at flight radar. Unfortunately, the clouds are in the way. They're even interfering with our visibility of the Embraer 175 that is only barely visible, and the number 2 significantly closer by than the 747. So it's going to be an airplane that we won't see very far in advance, but better visibility to the north today than at least earlier in the week. Shamrock. Arriving from Dublin, flight 604. More butt shots in the making. Curious to see if we are going to stay dry until 1 o'clock, 10 past 1. Well, we saw some openings in the sky earlier in the direction of the wind. It is now a bit more dark. Not necessarily it's going to rain any moment now dark, but definitely getting a bit more dense, the clouds. Embraer 175 arriving from Humberside, KLM flight 1486 up next. 37 minutes of flight. The airplane is 6 years old, first flight February 18. The next airplane behind it is the first 747 of the show. Still not visible, unfortunately. Quick look at the landing and then let's focus back to the north. I want to see it emerge from the clouds, the 747, if possible. Right, that has landed properly. Now let's wait until the JetOneX, operated by Air Atlanta Icelandic, according to flight radar, becomes visible. Flying for Saudia as flight 933, there it is, the 747-400, arriving from Jeddah. Flight time 5 hours 52 minutes. The airplane is 28 years old. First flight was in June 1995. Hopefully it's heavy and will make a lot of noise during landing when applying the reversers. Let's have a look and listen. Right, now that was a very nice landing, not the loudest but definitely a nice one. We have a Boeing 747 more coming, but before that an A380 from Emirates, which is going to be the number 4 for arrival by the looks of it, with a couple of Embraers in front of it. An Embraer 190 up first and 2 Embraer 175s behind it. KLM flight 1986 is what we are looking at. And yeah, one airplane at a time, unfortunately. No longer the visibility that we had earlier in the stream, where we could see 2 or 3 airplanes and regular glide slope shots. This is KLM flight 1986, Embraer 190, arriving from Basel. Flight time 1 hour and 3 minutes. 12-year-old airplane, first flight January 2012. Right. Was that or was that not Captain Really? Hard to say. Lengthwise, I would say probably not, but then again, maybe it was. Also some spectacular skies that are drifting by right now. For some reason the clouds have become a bit more vibrant in their coloration compared to what it was before. This is where the wind is blowing from, and it does look like there is still an opening in the sky, so hopefully that is going to mean we are going to keep it dry for at least the next 40 or so minutes. Time will tell. In the meantime, a very big thank you to John, who just now gifted 10 memberships. If you are one of the recipients of the memberships that John just now gifted, don't forget to say thanks. Welcome to the Aurora Sky Lounge. Those new members, be sure to use the custom emojis at your disposal now, whenever you see fit. And also another big thank you to John for just now gifting 10 memberships, 10 new members to the Aurora Sky Lounge. Courtesy of John. Thank you so much. Right, this is the first of two Embraer 175s that were following the Embraer 190 and will precede the A380. The next Embraer 175 is the Star Alliance livery from LOT, arriving from Warsaw, flight 263. Flight time 1 hour 46 minutes. An Embraer 175 long range, 13 years old. The first flight was in September 2010. The next airplane behind it is Emirates Flight 147. The Emirates A380, arriving from Dubai, not yet visible. So let's just have a look at this landing before going back to the north with the camera. Right, now the number 4 worldwide most followed on flight radar up next. Emirates Flight 147. Also hearing the emergency vehicle coming this way, by the looks of it, an ambulance. Hopefully nobody got unwell at the parking place of the Spottersplaats. Right, Emirates Flight 147 on its way to the Polderbaan. This airplane has been flying for 6 hours and 53 minutes. Normally speaking, it would have flown around 6.5 hours, so it does seem to have had a bit of headwind underway. The 11-year-old airplane began flying in March 2012 for the first time. Still the standard livery, the old standard livery. That ambulance is sounding like it's getting closer by. Oh, they're coming onto the cycling path. Holy fuck. Is there 2 of them? Is there a resuscitation necessary? Or is it just... Well, looking behind me, there's now an ambulance and a police vehicle, I believe, behind it, on the cycling path behind me. Maybe somebody got unwell. Okay. somebody on the bench that got unwell? Because they are now right here stopping. Police vehicle behind it. Right, that's the Emirates A380 with heavenly lighting, it seems like. Meanwhile, our next airplane, Transavia, well, it is a Transavia flight, but it is an ETF Airways airplane, flying for Transavia, flight 5132 737-800, arriving from Barcelona. Flight time 1 hour and 59 minutes. The airplane is 20 years old. First flight was January 2004. There's now an ambulance behind me, there is a police vehicle behind it, and it does sound like there is another emergency vehicle coming this way. Second police vehicle by the looks of it. Obviously not going to zoom into what is going on there. It looks like somebody might have gotten unwell. They aren't getting the stretcher out. There is somebody that is now getting helped into the ambulance but can walk on their own, so probably nothing too serious, but maybe somebody that needs to get checked out. Right, next up, Embraer 190, KLM flight 1856, arriving from Düsseldorf, short flight from JD's hometown, a mere 34 minutes of flight time. The airplane 12 years old. The first flight of this airplane was in January 2012. Right. In the meantime, it is getting increasingly busy over here with another truck having arrived. I hope it is not going to park right in front of here. Yeah, that stupid dredging over with and get those stupid vehicles out of the way. Initially, there were no vehicles obstructing the view on that side. They were behind me. Now they're all moving to the front of me, north of me. Just this one excavator still left, and is that the birth control vehicle, or no, that's the 50 vehicle. Second police vehicle has already moved away. There's still an ambulance and one police vehicle over here. Now that truck has turned. Oh, the roof. The roof opens automatically. Now don't tell me you're going to, no, don't reverse. No, mate, what are you doing? That is exactly not where I want you to stand still or reverse. Oh, but there's another one coming. Oh. crying out loud. It is also getting a bit darker looking to the west. I'm also pointing my camera in that direction, hoping that I might see the second queen that is flying to the north over there somewhere off the coast. The Singapore Airlines 747 returning from Nairobi. I'm not seeing it. Right, it's getting a bit messy here with all the traffic right in front of me. Unhindered butt shots are possible with the A380 in the background. Well, I say unhindered. Yeah, of course. Turkish flight 1961 up next. A321 arrival from Istanbul. 12-year-old airplane, first flight July 2011. Curious to see what the weather radar is telling in terms of precipitation coming this way. Let's see. Refresh, past hour. Yeah, so stuff is actually coming closer by. This is the past hour, yeah. Clouds are getting a bit darker. Precipitation is getting a bit closer by. Now combined with this panorama of vehicles parked right in between us and the approaching airplanes, which was not the case if you look back to the beginning of the stream. I particularly picked this location because it looked like it was the best of both worlds. Not too much in front and not too much behind me. That has now completely changed. Thinking maybe await the landing of the Singapore 747 and then call it a day, because first of all there's rain coming, second of all visibility is severely impeded. I think that's what I'm going to do, folks. It's getting a bit annoying with all the vehicles right in front of where I'm standing. It was clear earlier. It's getting ever more busy over here. Tractors. More police by the looks of it, or is that the military police, the marechaussee? Might be the latter. British Airways BA City Flyer, Embraer 190, Speedbird flight 8489 arriving from London City. Flight time is 37 minutes. Embraer 190 short range, 12 years old, first flight January 2012. I think I'm going to call it a day after the 747 has landed. That is now the number 3. Visibility to the north, as you guys can see. Still need to find the contact details of Hitachi and Volvo for sponsoring, getting reimbursed for the advertisements that I've run for them. Hopefully the weather on Thursday will be good enough that I can go out for another live stream. If that's the case, I hope that in the next 2 days the dredge and other workers have worked their way far to the north of the runway so that we don't have to see them close by anymore. You can still see the Emirates now going around the northern threshold of the center runway, and that is exactly why I was pondering on maybe also going to the northern threshold of the center runway sometime in the coming period while the Karbbaan is closed for maintenance, because we do see the center runway in use now continuously, and with Polderbaan also in use continuously. There's traffic from 2 runways concentrated around one, so alright, let's turn back the camera, see if we can spot the last airplane of today's show then. Singapore Airlines cargo, flight 7343, arriving from Nairobi, having flown 8 hours and 31 minutes to get to where it is right now. This 747-400 freighter, 18 years old. The first flight of this airplane was in February of the year 2006. Right, well, in the meantime a traffic jam is forming over here because the tractor cannot pass. There's an ambulance in the way, Marechaussee, the military police also backing up. Stuff over here going on in the water, but the numerous vehicles over here combined with the upcoming rain will make this the end of the stream. I'm done for today. Thank you all so much for joining me here. I hope you guys enjoyed the show as much as I have, in between all the digging, excavating, the 747s, the other airplanes that were visible. If you did like what you see, you haven't done so already, don't forget to drop a like. It really helps to spread this content to other aviation enthusiasts such as yourself as well. If you want to stay informed of upcoming live streams, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I will look to see if I can go out again on Thursday, weather permitting. For now, I'm going to say thank you all so much for joining me here. Hey, interesting to see just how deep this water is. The answer is not really. You can see that this man is walking through the canal. Okay, knee deep. Knee deep. Okay, so now we know. Getting across the water is a cinch. On that bombshell, it really is time to end. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. Thank you for the support, the super chats, the super stickers, the memberships, the gifted memberships, the merch store purchases. Your support means the world to me. The channel is nothing without you guys, and I appreciate each and every one of you very much for that. Thank you so much, moderators also, for keeping the stream friendly and accessible. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your week. Hope to see you on Thursday. If not on Thursday, then hopefully sometime shortly after that. For now, goodbye and take care. See you soon.